On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a tutorial on how to draft and cut a pants knicker or a short knicker as you may call it. And if this sounds like what you're interested in, you might definitely want to stick around and watch till the end. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. On this channel, I share videos about sewing, pattern drafting, pattern illustration, sewing tips, vlogs, and everything in between. Before I forget, I want to personally thank you guys for all the subscriptions towards my channel, for subscribing to my channel, for all the love you have been showing me. I really want to thank you guys. Thank you and thank you very much. I really appreciate. So on today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a tutorial on how to make this pants short or short knicker as you may call it. And if this sounds like what you're interested in, you might definitely want to stick around and watch till the end. Don't forget to subscribe and tap on the notification bell so you wouldn't miss any of my videos. Let's just dive into the main video. The first thing I did was to measure 1 inch along this side of the paper, and I'll be rolling a line like so to start from there. Now after I'm done rolling this line, I went upwards to mark a starting line because I want to use that line as my waistline, and I'm going to be labeling it as my waistline. So from there, I'll be measuring my crotch depth. So my crotch depth is 12.5, and I'll be marking that like so, and after which I'll be using my ruler to roll the lines to indicate it. Now this is my crotch line. Next, I'm just going to measure the circumference of my hip line, and I'll get the quarter of my circumference and I'll mark it like so at this point. And I'll be repeating the same thing upwards at the waistline as well. Now I'm just going to be connecting the lines down to the crotch line. And next, I'm going to be dividing quarter of my hip circumference. I'm just going to be dividing it by 4 once more, and I'll be getting 2 inches. I'll be marking that upwards like this, and I'll be using that point as my hip line. And now I'm just going to be labeling that as my hip line. And at the crotch line, I'm supposed to extend my crotch length by 3 inches and not 2 inches. So I made a mistake. I'm supposed to be marking 3 inches there, and I'll be adding that later on when I'm drawing my tie line. Is 3 inches instead of 2 inches. So if you're on a big side, you add 3 inches, but if you're on a smaller side, 2 inches to 2.5 is okay. The next thing I did was to measure the circumference of my waistline, and I'll be marking the quarter of it here, and then I'm going to be adding 1 inch for the dart intake. Now from there, I'm just going to be using my ruler to connect from that point down to my hip line. And after that, next thing I did was to measure out the band. So I measured out the band of about 2 inches. You can choose to measure 1.5 inch at most. So for me, I'll be taking 2 inches, and I'll be marking that out as well. That is the band. And the next thing I did was to remove 2 inches, starting from the line which I have excluded from the band. And from there, I'm just going to be going downwards from my crotch line, and I'll be marking my thigh measurement. So from my crotch line down to my thigh measurement, I took about 2.5 inches downwards, and I'm just going to be connecting that in a straight line. And that should be my thigh line. Now after that, next thing I'll do is to divide the circumference of my thigh by 2, and I'll be marking it like so. And I'll also be adding 0.25 for ease allowance at this point. Then I'm just going to be connecting it upwards to the crotch line, and I'll be rolling it out with the ruler. So I'll be adding the 1 inch I'm supposed to add initially for my crotch depth. Now I'm just going to be connecting it in a straight line, and I'll smoothing this part out. Now I went ahead to measure 1 inch at the inseam like so, and I'll be marking it out. From there, I'm just going to be slanting it towards the crotch line. If you want it to be straight and free there, you can just leave it the way it is. For me, I want it to be fitted at the inseam. So the next thing I did was to go upwards at the band. I'll be measuring the waistline and I'll be checking what I have there to get the midpoint. So I'll be marking that as my dart intake. I'm just going to be using my tape rule to measure out 3.5 inches downwards for the length of the front dart, and I'm going to be using my ruler to connect that in a straight line. And from there, I'll also go ahead and mark 0.5 inches for the dart on both sides and connect also with my ruler. Next, I went ahead to label the length of the shirt, so I'm just going to be cutting it out. Now that I've cut out the band, here is going to be my new waistline. And now it's time to place another paper for the back piece. So now the next thing I did at the back was to measure 2 inches extra for the back piece, and I'll be going down by 0.75 inches like so. And next I'm just going to check what I have here as at 1 inch, and I'll be adding 0.5 inch there for the back crotch. After that, I went upwards at the waistline, and I'll be getting what I have from the center of the waistline to the dart. I'll be getting the midpoint from this part to this part, and I'll check what I have there. So I'm just going to use that measurement to get the half of it. So I'm just going to mark that, and from there I'll be going upwards by 2 inches for the back of the shorts, and I'll be marking that in a straight line. So after I'm done marking that, I went ahead to get what I have from my waistline, and I'll be marking the exact measurement for the back like so. And after that, I'm just going to connect with my ruler. So from there, I'll just go ahead and connect down to the hip line from that point. And after that, I'll be connecting the back crotch. So I'm just going to be using my French curve to connect it like so downwards. Now that I'm done, I'm just going to use my ruler and connect it like so towards the front piece. And I'm just going to be making sure that I have the same length for it, and I will trace out the sides as well. Guys, if you have not subscribed, kindly hit the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell to get more notification on my next upload. So after I'm done removing the front piece, I'm just going ahead to make sure that I mark the half of my waist measurement for the back dart. I'll be getting the midpoint just to mark it like so at this point, and I'll be using my ruler to measure. I'll be using my tape rule to measure 4 inches downwards for the back dart, and I'll be connecting it with my ruler like so, adding 0.5 inches on both sides like I did for the front, just to connect the dart leg. back piece, I'll just go ahead and trace out the lines and make sure they are visible enough before cutting it out. Guys, if you notice, I did not add any form of sewing allowance to this. I'll be adding that when I'm about to cut out the fabric. So I'm not going to be adding any sewing allowance for the pattern because I want to add it directly when I'm cutting it out on fabric. And that is basically all. Now this is going to be the back piece. If you enjoyed this video, kindly give me a thumbs up and also tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll be using the patterns to cut out my fabric on my next video. See you guys in my next video. Bye for now.